Singapore, arguably the financial centre of the world, the most expensive and the cleanest country in Asia, full of advanced technology, towering skyscrapers, an effective public transport system, world-class shopping ranging from street markets, shopping centres to high-end and designer brand shops. Singapore really has it all. However, under all of the glamour, cleanliness, chain stores and street food, Singapore has a very recent and dark past. Join me as I unveil the true story of Singapore, the supposed impregnable fortress and former British colony that fell to the Japanese during World War II. Guys, Rory coming at you. So during World War II, the Japanese were stationed over here in Malaysia. They took Malaysia by bicycle and by bicycle blitzkrieg. Basically what happened were the Japanese sailed across here into Woodlands over there, and they took the top of Singapore, so they would have been all stationed here, or the military, and then they stormed across. So let's go and learn about the Battle of Singapore and the fall of Singapore. We're at the Kranji War Memorial, the Kranji War Cemetery, which is originally a prisoner of war camp. There's Cathal there, fiddling on his phone. Cemetery where they buried the Allied soldiers, so soldiers from Australia, England, Malaysia. They also buried a bunch of citizens here as well, civilians, Singaporean civilians, and there's 2 Singaporean presidents buried here apparently. So let's go have a wander around and see what we can find. So as you can see, the cemetery is pretty well manicured, pretty clean, pretty well looked after. There was a guard on the way in, making sure people weren't flying drones or playing soccer. There's no playing soccer apparently, no dogs, no cats. So I'm not sure how many Allied soldiers are buried here, but I'm assuming it'd be quite a lot. You can see there's a big monument here, and there's all the graves. So some are war graves, some are citizen graves, and then there's 2 presidents buried here, so I'm assuming they would have pretty elaborate graves for presidents. Who have we got, Cathal? Who's buried here?
An Australian soldier.
Australian soldier, what's his name?
Doesn't have a name.
Oh, these are nameless,
So
are they?
some of them are named, so this fella is nameless, and then others. I think these are all Australians.
I think if they
So this fella is
WF Baker.
He's age 20.
Sounds very Aussie. Yeah, right. 20. I think if they didn't have dog tags, then they have no name. Yeah.
But this fella, he's the only fella without a name. So a lot of them.
Australian. France. No, sorry, Lance Corporal, not France.
No, they're all
Aussie. Oh, Aussies, yeah.
These are all Australian.
Aussies. Yeah, it's the same thing that was on the.
These ones are English.
Ah, right, different thing. Yeah, it was the same in Kanchanaburi in Thailand. They all had the what would you call that? A logo or a what would you call that? Badge?
Seal?
Seal? I'm not sure. Oh, Aussies. All Aussies. As you can see, there's a lot of graves here, so these ones are all Aussies, as you can see. Who have we got? B.E. Hansen, W.L. Innes. So all these guys would have died in the Battle of Singapore when the Japanese came across from Johor, from Malaysia into Singapore, and they were battling with the English. There were a lot of Australian soldiers here, so as you can see, that's why a lot of Australian soldiers died here defending Singapore in the Battle of Singapore. Sadly, many of them died, and a lot of those who survived, who were prisoners of war, were taken off to various places to be Japanese prisoners of war. And as you remember from a previous video, a lot of them went to Kanchanaburi in Thailand to build the Thai-Burma Railway. Poor bastards, fucking building that in the heat. A lot of them died there, and as you can remember, we went to the war cemetery there in Kanchanaburi, where they all got taken to Singapore to Thailand to build the railway, and they all perished. More Aussies here. I mean, they've done a pretty good job with their graves. There's flowers and shrubs and things. Done a pretty good job beautifying it. So here we have a bunch of English graves, as you can see from the, I don't know, logo or insignia, whatever you call it. Insignia, coat of arms. I don't know. I'm not up with the hip bloody army terms.
Look, Irish here. We were probably
no Irish. You were neutral. You were probably sipping cups of tea and drinking pints of Guinness. Look, we've got the history guru here. He's right in his element.
Yeah. I'm trying to see any Irish lads.
I wonder if we've seen Aussies and English so far. I wonder if there's any.
That's it though. It's all Malaya, Australia.
Oh, Malaya. Where's the Malaya grave? Don't know. Malaya grave. Malaya. Leicestershire. So all of their see the Aussies all have the same insignia, but the English had different insignias depending on which.
There's 150 regiments.
Yeah, so the British had different insignias depending on the regiment, eh? But the Australians all had the same insignia, I'm pretty sure. There's a lot of graves. There's a lot. I think it's probably about the same as I don't know. Kanchanaburi seemed bigger to me, but it might not have been. A soldier of the.
Just as a soldier.
Yeah, so no named. Soldier of the war. No name. The men whose names are recorded on these panels perished in captivity in February 1942 and lie buried here in one grave with 10 comrades whose names are not known. So there you go. 10 people are buried here. And who knows who they are? Poor bastards. The Gurkhas, yeah, the Indian, yeah. So, because it was British India, right? So, I mean, the English probably brought a bunch of Indians over here. That's why there's an Indian population here and in Malaysia, because they brought them over. So they were probably fighting as well, and probably prisoners of war.
These fuckers are all different.
They did. Where's the Gurkha? What are they called? Burkas?
Gherkins.
Gherkins.
Not Gherkins.
Gherkins. Gherkins. Gherkins.
Yeah, you're a Gherkin.
You're a Gherkin. Look at you.
I'm a Gherkin. Yeah, Princess Mary's Gherkin rifle.
Princess Mary Gurkha rifles. Yeah, right. Well, look at the name. Bom Prasad Limbu. New Zealand, Indian, RAF. Yeah, right. All the lads' names. Where were some of these lads from? Straits. So many names. There's lots of Chinese names too. Did you see that? There's lots of Chinese names. Look at all these names, it's so sad. There's so many people who died either as prisoners of war or fighting to defend Singapore. These are all foreign names, so I'd say most of them were Indian or Malay. Habib Yula. Gurdip Singh, I'd say that's Indian. Yeah, poor bastards. We found one of Cathal's friends' relatives here.
Well, he's not a relative.
Gisbert. Well, he knows him anyway. I knew of him. Gisbert. What's the regiment called?
The Argyll and Sunderland.
Argyll, Sunderland, Thailand. Yeah, right. Hey guys, Rory coming at you from the former Ford factory here in Singapore, and this is where the English surrendered to the Japanese. So behind me, we're going to go in and we're going to go to the room where General Arthur Percival surrendered to the Japanese in 15th of February 1942. Let's go. During the Japanese invasion of Singapore and the intense one-week battle that ensued, the English are running short of resources and they had no other choice but to surrender. So Arthur Percival and his party went to the former Ford factory where they surrendered to the Japanese general. This is where it happened, right here in this room. He's such a miserable guy.
I am. I like being miserable. Being miserable makes me happy.
Why though?
Because you get to try and ruin other people's days. I mean, there's nothing better than ruining people, making.
Are all people from Ennis fucking miserable?
Yes, I usually.
Is that because Ennis is a shithole?
Yes. No comment.
But if you go around the corner to Limerick, it's a
Limerick are worse. They're worse. Oh, they're worse.
But then Kerry, they're fucking lovely because I love fucking Kerry.
Yeah, because they want your money because they're like, oh yeah,
ride a donkey at the donkey derby and we love you.
Jesus, this place is full of fucking cable cars.
The cable cars stuff.
Press X on the button without releasing to speak to our staff. Alternatively, you may contact us at +65 6361 0088. Thank you.
Hey, the cable cars resumed. World's first offshore landfill site. Somewhere over there. On the 8th of February 1942, the Japanese army began bombarding northwest Singapore. Then at the same time, they crossed the Johor Strait from Malaysia to Singapore, and they defeated the Australian army that were guarding the top of the island, and they took the island. And on the 15th of February 1942, as you saw earlier, they surrendered at the former Ford factory. Now, as you can see, there were several gun emplacements around Singapore, and the British Army thought that the Japanese were going to come in by boat and send a navy and have a big naval battle. However, they just came across the strait on collapsible boats and took them by surprise and took them with infantry. This is Fort Siloso, which is one of the only forts and gun emplacements that are still remaining in Singapore. A lot of the other ones have been dismantled, though this one is a museum. So during World War II, Fort Siloso had 2 twin 6-pounder quick-firing anti-torpedo boat guns, 5 searchlights, an operational tower, 2 machine guns, and 2 twin Lewis anti-aircraft machine guns. So most of these guns were turned inland during the invasion of Singapore. There is also a vast network of tunnels underneath Fort Siloso where ammunition and everything else they needed were kept. Now, it's kind of hard to tell you the extent of this place, but it's big. It's a lot bigger than I thought. And they've done a really good job at maintaining it as well. Absolutely beautiful views of Singapore. Behind me here is Fort Siloso in Sentosa in Singapore, where one of the many gun batteries was that the English set up. And according to Winston Churchill, it was an impregnable jewel or impregnable fortress of Southeast Asia. And little to their bemusement, the Japanese just waltzed in over the border from Johor in Malaysia and took it after some aerial bombardment. So that wasn't too much of a battle. The battle went on for about a week. And yeah, they took Singapore with ease, and Winston Churchill thought they were coming from sea, and they did not. What do you reckon, Cathal? What do you reckon?
It's a fine fort.
It's a fight? Singapore really reminds me of Hong Kong, does it not? You? Yeah, they were. So just to put it into perspective, we're at the Japanese Memorial Park now, the cemetery where the Japanese soldiers were buried. So we'll go see the contrast between this and the Allied cemetery they were at before. Also have a orange umbrella. So yeah, let's go have a look at the Japanese war cemetery, war memorial, where the Japanese soldiers that fought in the Battle of Singapore and some of the Southeast Asia campaign during World War II were buried. Can't read any of that, it's all in Chinese, Japanese. It's how I expected it to be. It's not
Very somber.
It's not as well manicured, and there's fucking weeds growing in the fucking cherry blossom. Yeah, I guess that's pretty nice. The one in Thailand didn't have any of this. End of 19th century, Japanese brothel owner donated 7 acres of rubber plantation is the government official event. So just to put it into perspective, the one we were at before, the Allied War Cemetery, is on a hill overlooking Malaysia. Basically, it's overlooking the ocean, and a very nice part of Singapore. Well manicured hill with well manicured gardens. There's cherry blossoms here, but it's very somber, very eerie. As you can see, the graves are not very well kept. They're all very old and decrepit. Like some of them have flowers and things, but it's not as well maintained, I guess you'd say, as the other one. Like it's still got some nice things here. And apparently this land was donated by a brothel owner who owned rubber plantations. He donated a few acres, which the British colonial government at the time allowed them to use this land to bury the Japanese and to have a cemetery, which is nice. It's nice that the Japanese get somewhere where all their soldiers were buried, but it's in the middle of nowhere really. Like it's sort of in the city, but it's not. It's in a random suburb on a side street. It's not really anywhere of significance. Looking at it now, there's some nice graves and some nice monuments that they've erected by the looks of it, but it's not really. Yeah. What do you reckon, Cathal? Is there a bunch of corporate donors who have donated for the cemetery, I'm assuming? There's quite a lot of them. Are they Japanese? Yeah, they're all Japanese, yeah, right. Well, that's good that they care about the cemetery and they care about the history and respect the people who are buried here, so that's good, at least. It's not like they've just been forgotten. Cherry blossoms are nice. There's a lot more graves here than I thought. They're quite spaced out. At the other place they were all very close together, and there seemed to be some sort of rhyme and reason. I'm not sure if there's a reason for the way that this cemetery is set out, but as you can see, some of the graves are kind of randomly put out. Like some are in rows, some are not. And they're quite fast-spaced apart. And some of them have multiple, like there's one over here, where was it? I saw one here somewhere. There's one over here. And it's got multiple names on it. I can't remember where it was, I walked past it before. Some of them have multiple names on them, so I'm not sure if they just mass bury people. But yeah, the ones at the Allied War Cemeteries you saw were all really close together. These ones are, some of them are close, but they're really spaced out. I'm not sure if they just all buried them in a massive hole and then stuck some headstones on. This is the civilian war memorial to all the civilians that died during World War II in Singapore, especially those who died before the Singapore. Stay curious, stay adventurous, and keep exploring.